All right, good afternoon to you and you're welcome to the program. It's Good Afternoon Ghana. My name is Annie Efo Ampofo. We're live from the Akua Bohema studio here at North Ridge, and we're reaching you also on channel 277 DSTV. Also follow us on Metro TV Ghana on Facebook as well. So this afternoon we're talking elections, all right? Everything elections. Local observation, international observations, combination of observations, whatever it is, just to ensure peace, course, in our country. So you know that we've already started talking more electoral activities, voting, registrations, processes that we're going through and all that. So there is an organization that is overseeing some of the things that we're doing in our country, and they're holding a conference, against that. So let's see how that conference will go. But before that, we're talking about that work here in the studio. And then we'll also have Global Info Analytics that regularly will be feeding us with the polls that they've been conducting. And we have another one in October that's coming up. And this focused on members of parliament. So there'll be a cross communication, and all that. So just in case you find anything weird about this afternoon discussion, that's how it's going to go. I'll introduce a guest for you later after this break. All right, you're welcome back. So my special guest I have with me this afternoon is in the person of Dr. Kevin Casas Zamora. Did I get it right?
You did. You're a linguist.
Thank you. Dr. Kevin Casas Zamora is actually the secretary for, that's a Secretary General for International Democracy and Electoral, is it electoral? What did I write?
The International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance.
Assistance. Great.
In short, international IDEA.
Yes. So I see the international IDEA. International IDEA. Somebody read my flyer and said international IDEA. I see. so that's the meaning of the word, right? So international democracy for electoral assistance. So just in case you are actually wondering what it's about. Do you assist in elections?
We do. I mean, we do a lot of work around elections globally, not just about elections, but a lot of the work we do is connected to elections, to allowing electoral institutions in different countries around the world to up their game and to be better able to deal with the challenges that elections are
we've been doing this regularly.
Globally. We do it on a regular basis. We've been doing it for 28 years. International IDEA is an organization that was founded in 1995 by a group of countries, 14 originally, but it has grown to have 34 member states, including, very proudly, Ghana. And Ghana is currently the vice president, the vice chair of our Council of Member States. And we are very happy about that, and hence my visit here. Sorry?
When did we take up that position?
At the beginning of the year. Oh. These are year-long positions, and my visit here is connected to one of the really big contributions that Ghana is making as part of its vice chairship of the Institute, which is this big conference, very solid, very robust conference on one of the truly crucial issues for democracy globally, which is the question of how to handle, how to counteract disinformation in the context of elections mostly.
Yeah, so I see it's disinformation, integrity, peace, security in Africa, and that is the focus of International IDEA. But, maybe to give a picture of what we've been practicing, some media houses in Ghana have been practicing, including Metro TV, is the Global Info Analytics. And if you've been monitoring Good Afternoon Ghana, you know that he has been regular with us, and with our plea anytime his post is ready, he's ready to share with us. Sometimes we break the news, and today we're breaking it as well. So Mr. Musa Dankwa is with me in the studio, and he's on the other screen. You're welcome. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you.
Right, thank you so much for your time. So we actually wanted to expose a little bit of what we do as far as elections is concerned. So we did this combination of the interview to give international idea that this is the nature of how we manage electoral information. So you will take us through maybe a few slides to start with. So he observes how you're doing it, and then we can come back to Doc. Right.
All right. First and foremost, this is the first time Ghana is having regular polling in any election year. We do it every 90 days to gauge the public sentiment and also the sentiment of voters with regards to who they want to lead the country, and also other political parties and the MPs. So in this round of polling, we interviewed 6,424 Ghanaians across randomly selected 82 electoral areas or constituencies in the country. And from the sample allocated to each constituency, we are looking at areas that are very prominent, that have a very good sample size that we can look at to give us early warning indication of what is happening there before we could do a full-blown assessment of that constituency. So just a snapshot of what could be happening in that constituency. Our methodology for this, as I mentioned, the report includes sample size from 5,210, and we took in particular cases like Odotobiri, Subin, Bantama, Echuma, Webeja, North, that have a sample size of not up to 50, just to see what is happening there for its unique reasons. We used the 2022 EC register as a basis to allocate the sample size across various constituencies and electoral areas. And the results that we are using today is likely voters model. We're discounting those who said they will not vote from the visual. We have a precision in terms of those who want to vote and how they may in the end vote. We presented the report as unweighted. We don't have averages for some key demographic in the constituency, so the report are at the moment unweighted. And then the interviews were conducted between 21st September and 1st October 2023. So broadly, this is the methodology and the approach we are using to analyze these samples that we have from the constituency.
I have a question. Does this, you captured it as special?
Yeah, special, because there are about 82 of them, but only focusing on this 14 or 15. The rest, the sample size is not huge enough for us to make meaning for them, because it's gleaned from the national sample that we are focusing on these ones with bigger sample sizes.
Okay. So that's what makes them special?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, so what we do is that we look at the region and the constituency, and we look at key data from that constituency. We look at the results of the previous election as in 2020. We then look at the party affiliation in that particular constituency by the sample that we've taken. And then we look at how the MP is performing in the eyes of the general voters. And then we ask them their voting intention in 2024. And then we also look at the voting intentions by party affiliation to see which candidate is getting cross-party support, and then to see the vulnerability of the candidates in that sense. And then from here, we looked at the key races in the general election with regards to two of the main leading candidates for the ruling government. If they emerge as candidates, how they will fare against the opposition, and then the butterfly candidate, Alan Martin. So that's the approach we've taken.
Okay, so how does this look like? This is Sunyani East.
The first one is Sunyani East, currently being held by the MPP. In the last election, MPP got 60.6%, NDC got 35.8%, and 3.6% were other candidates who were contesting in the seat. The MP for Sunyani East is Kwesi Ameya Ochremi. Then the party affiliation of the respondents, 18% of them said they were MPP. 29% said they were NDC. 51% said they were floating voters, independent voters. And then those who did not disclose their party affiliation for one reason or the other were 3%. So you
51% floating
yes, so
voters.
people saying that they are now floating voters in Sunyani East.
Wow.
When you see this high number of floating voters, it's a warning sign of things to come. Now we look at the party, the performance of the MP. Those who said he's done excellent, 2%. Very good or good, 5%. Those who said very poor or poor, 42%. Average, 49%. And no opinion, 2%. Then we asked them, which party's candidate are they intending to vote for in the 2024 parliamentary elections? Those who said they were going to vote for NDC, 67% for NDC candidate, 20% for MPP candidate, 6% said other candidates who may contest, and 7% are undecided. Clearly, this MP is in serious trouble. Now, if you look at the party affiliation of the voters who were voting to elect the MP, with regards to MPP, 93% of their supporters are voting for their own candidate. 7% are voting for, were undecided. When you come to NDC, 96% of them are voting for NDC candidates. 4% coming from MPP. So 4% of MPP have crossed carpet to vote for NDC candidate. When you go to the floating voters here, 73% of them are voting green, meaning the opposition candidate. And 5% are voting for MPP blue. 13% said they will vote for other parties, and 10% are undecided. You could see that NDC is up because of the sheer size of the floating voters who are voting for their candidate massively in the parliamentary voting intention. And then for those who did not disclose their party affiliation, all of them are voting for the NDC's candidate. That is why this MP is in trouble.
Okay, so pause there. We will finish with the, that one is our business. But that's just to give you an idea of maybe the demographic discussion of electoral issues in Ghana, maybe on the media terrain. Mm-hmm. How do you fit in this, or how does it come across to you?
I mean, I won't comment on the
don't comment on the details
of the poll or what's coming up, because I mean, I play ignorance. I'm no expert on Ghanaian politics. What I can say is that if you look at the results of the previous election, it was a very close election with a very close result. And in that kind of situation, the possibility, the likelihood that disinformation campaigns can exacerbate existing polarization is very high. And hence, we need to take the issue of disinformation and misinformation very seriously, because it's the instrument par excellence to exacerbate the cleavages that already exist in society, political cleavages, but also ethnic cleavages, and hence the need to address this to prevent post-election violence is very high. And that's one of the reasons why we are so keen to work with Ghana to stimulate a national discussion on how to deal with this information, because it's truly one of the most important issues that democratic systems all over the world are trying to grapple with, and Ghana is no exception.
So in terms of the work of International Institute of Democracy and Electoral Assistance, you said you've been in existence from 1995?
Yes.
1995. And observing Ghana over the period in our elections, how have you been faring as a country? As far as elections concerned?
I think Ghana has very legitimate reasons to be proud of the way its democratic system has evolved. Well, since 1992, you've managed to achieve 8 successful elections and peaceful transfers of power. That's pretty exceptional in the African context. But not just that. I mean, just to give you a couple of factoids, when you take the measurements that we have at IDEA about the performance of democracies across the globe, we publish a report every year on the global state of democracy, which is about to come out in a couple of weeks. If you take those measurements that we have, and we use a lot of indicators and a lot of numbers, and I wouldn't get into that now, Ghana is in the top 50 countries in the world in two of the truly foundational attributes of democracy. Number one, representation, which is where you find the ability of a country to hold credible elections, the ability of political parties to operate, the ability of parliaments to hold executives in check. Ghana does very well, among the top 50. Is the one country alongside Cabo Verde in the African context that makes it to the top 50. When it comes to participation, same story. Ghana does remarkably well when it comes not just to electoral participation, you have pretty good levels of turnout, but also when it comes to levels of civic engagement with democracy. And this is something, by the way, on which the African continent as a whole does rather well. Among those 50 countries that are at the top of the rankings when it comes to participation levels, 9 of them are from the African continent, including Ghana. So
how do you measure the civic engagement?
There are a number of indicators that track down the willingness of people to engage in civic action, to participate in civil society organizations, to engage in demonstrations of different kinds. The different kinds of participation that happen beyond elections. So we measured that and we produced a series of indicators on levels of participation. Ghana does very well. So those are two of the many reasons that Ghana has to be proud of its democratic performance over the past 30 plus years. Are there challenges? Many. Every country has challenges when it comes to democracy.
I was coming there. If you consider the challenges, prior to election 2020, we went through registration exercises. What the Electoral Commission was organizing, people were very angry because we were dealing with COVID at the time. We had a situation where we were supposed to stay off, be at home, social, distancing and all that. In fact, some people were calling it physical distancing. But we were supposed, I would say we were forced to engage in registering procedures that sort of inconvenienced quite a lot of people because COVID appeared a little scary because it was very novel. So I'm not sure if you measure the challenges, as you mentioned, if you see the challenges and you measure, and then you juxtapose them to your indicators, they still come out positive.
I mean, look, COVID-19 created myriad challenges for elections, not just in Ghana, all over the world. And actually, if I'm surprised about something, is how resilient electoral processes turn out to be in the face of the impossible challenges created by COVID-19. This is something that we covered in one of our previous reports, and we've done a lot of work at IDEA, because this is the kind of work that we do. I mean, we do research, comparative research, tease out the best practices, tease out the policy lessons, and make them available to countries like Ghana. So when it comes to COVID-19, what we saw was actually the remarkable capacity of electoral processes, electoral authorities, political parties to adapt to a set of very difficult conditions. And despite the challenges, I would like to claim that, and the evidence suggests that Ghana held a successful election, and a successful election that was later upheld by judicial authorities in the country as a free and fair election. That's no small achievement for the country.
So we're talking about misinformation, violence, we're talking about peace and all that. The seminar that's coming up, it's coming off tomorrow, no? Tomorrow. What do we expect to discuss at the seminar? How will it impact on us as a country?
I would say 4 things by way of objectives of the seminar. Number one, trying to understand how this global phenomenon of disinformation plays out, how it manifests itself in different contexts. When we talk about disinformation campaigns, what exactly we mean by that, how they work, and understanding also, it's also crucial to understand the urgency of this for democracies. I mean, if you're not able to agree on a set of facts, it's impossible to have a reasonably civil conversation about anything in a democracy. You know, we can disagree on policy, and I can even think that you're incorrect in what you're saying, but that's very different to not knowing what to believe and not knowing whether you're feeding me false facts as part of your position. I mean, it's an entirely different ballgame. So, understanding the nature of the phenomenon, number one. Number two, on the basis of comparative global experience, which is what IDEA does, hopefully on the basis of these discussions that we're going to have tomorrow, generate a set of standards, of recommendations, of guidelines as to how to deal with the phenomenon of disinformation with an eye towards the upcoming election in 2024.
Yeah.
So that to the extent possible, and it's never perfect, but to the extent possible, we help the country immunize itself against this huge problem. That's number two. Number three, we expect a declaration, a multi-stakeholder declaration to come out of the seminar, which is really a public commitment to recognize the urgency of this phenomenon and the urgency of finding solutions to mitigate the impact of this information. And I put the emphasis on the word collective commitment, because this is really something that no electoral authority can be expected to deal on its own with this phenomenon. It has to be a nationwide effort to deal with this. So that's number three. And number four, by way of listing the objectives of the seminar, I guess it's also a way for Ghana to show how serious it's taking this issue, which is what you would expect from a democracy, that it's really one of the beacons of democratic practice in the region.
So do we have, since you expect that this will help, especially major stakeholders, who are participating in this? Do we have political parties involved? Do we have most observers involved in the seminar?
A lot of institutions and partners will be part of this. I mean, this is something that International IDEA is co-convening, but really the leading role has been played by the Ministry of Information in Ghana, by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, by the Cybersecurity Authority, but judicial authorities will be participating, as well as electoral authorities, political parties, academics, civil society organizations, watchdog organizations. So it's a really broad set of actors that will be taking place in this conversation, which befits the nature of the problem we're dealing with. As I said, you know, this is something that can only be dealt with through a collective effort. And also, quite frankly, by recognizing that nobody has the silver bullet to deal with this problem. I mean, not in Ghana nor anywhere else. So we really need to knock a few heads around the table to find some clarity as to how to deal with this information.
So with organizations like yours, say International IDEA, that promotes democratic practices,
yeah.
What makes democracy so important for the development of a nation?
Well, several things, I would say. I mean,
and let me give you a basis. I'm asking this question because you'd have people who maybe have lived almost their whole lives, if they're 30 years, they're 40 years, they're 50 years, seeing how democracy works. Some of them may have tasted military rule or some other system, and then they think, I think this democracy is not helping us as Africa. How will you respond to a person who has such?
I would say
ideas?
in 2 or 3 ways, and this is a very relevant question that a lot of people are posing around the world. I mean, number one, we should not discard the power of democracy to protect human dignity. Is the one political system that does not treat citizens as underage dupes, that gives them a sense of agency, that they can participate in the decision of collective issues that matter to them. So this is not a small thing. I mean, it might sound like an abstract thing, but there's a reason why people in Africa and in Latin America, my part of the world, I come from Costa Rica, there's a reason why people queue up for hours to vote, because it matters to them. It gives them a sense of agency and a stake in decision making in society. That's number one. Number two, and this is truly vital, democracy has a built-in capacity to correct the way in which public policy is done. The ability of democracies to adjust and self-correct is very important, because you know, when you live in a democracy worth its salt, Annie, you know that in 4 or 5 years, if you don't like the guys that are running the show, you're going to get a chance to throw the rascals out, right?
Right.
If you live in an authoritarian system, it's like playing the roulette, because you might strike gold and end up with, I don't know, with a very enlightened dictator running the show, with, I don't know, Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore. But you might not be so lucky, and chances are you won't be so lucky, and you might end up with Idi Amin running the show. And you have nowhere to go. There's no way you can correct and adjust public policy in such a setting. You're locked in the room with someone that is not accountable to anyone.
Right.
And that's really a huge power that democracies have. And by the way, this is not abstract at all. When you look back into the performance of democracies and authoritarian systems during the pandemic, one of the striking things I find, you know, looking back, is that generally speaking, you know, with highs and lows, but generally speaking, the performance of democracies in dealing with the pandemic looks much better now than it did 3 years ago. And the performance, conversely, the performance of authoritarian systems in dealing with the pandemic looks much weaker now than it did 3 years ago. You know, 3 years ago, we all, you know, were buying into this story that, oh, well, you know, authoritarian systems are able to make decisions in a very efficient way and to act rapidly. Well, but those decisions have a high likelihood of being wrong, because the decision-making process is closed. I mean, it doesn't allow for...
Yeah, so in Ghana here, we had the opportunity of institutions, even opposition political parties, coming up with ideas.
Exactly.
I mean, they had, every political party seemed to have an expert within it. So all the experts formed a committee and brought up ideas and suggested it to government. So government had varied proposals to pick from and also add to its ideas and implement as far as COVID is concerned.
Well, that's exactly what happens in a democracy, and that's exactly what gives you the chance to correct public policy gradually. I mean, it's by trial and error, as it were, but it's a trial and error that is allowed by the democratic dispensation in a way that is not allowed in an authoritarian system. In an authoritarian system, decisions are made and...
cast in stone.
Well, yeah, I mean, they are often wrong, and there's no popular pressure enough to correct them. So this is a major part of the argument in favor of democracy. And let me add a third argument, which is one that you have lived out here in Ghana over the past 3 decades, is that, well, democracies are better at securing peaceful transfers of power. Not in every case, but generally speaking, they resolve the issue of power succession in an elegant way. And power succession is a problem that authoritarian systems generally have a huge, huge problem trying to solve. So, I mean, the normative case for democracy, the arguments in favor of democracy continue to be very strong. And don't take my word for it. If you take regional surveys in Africa, 70% of the population in Africa agree that they prefer to live under a democratic dispensation. That's not a small thing.
Right. So the conference is coming off tomorrow. Tell us the time. What we should expect to have after the conference?
The conference starts tomorrow at 8:30, if I'm not mistaken. You can get more details from the organizers, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, from the Ministry of Information as well. And I would like to think that a lot of people will be able to follow the conversation, not just physically at the venue, but also online. And what we hope to get, as I mentioned before, is, with a little bit of luck, the start of a conversation so that we get to a set of guidelines and recommendations of a practical kind to deal with the issue of disinformation in the context of elections in Ghana, number one, and number two, a declaration signed by the participants and by different institutions in Ghana, committing themselves to giving priority to this most important of issues for democracy, and committing themselves to collaborating with other actors, with other institutions, with other stakeholders. It
will include committing themselves to peace, right?
That too, okay. Of course. Well, I mean, here, this wouldn't be the first time that this happens here.
Right.
Last year, in 2022, as you know, the African Union convened a very important event here in Accra that yielded the Accra Declaration on Unconstitutional changes of government in Africa, which is a really powerful document. I mean, for those of you that have not checked it out, do it, because it's really a landmark document in the democratic development of Africa, and that happened here. So in a way, we are building upon some of the things that were said there, including the need for political actors to commit themselves to respecting electoral results that are free and fair.
Right. So let me just assure you that after the break, we're actually going to go back to Mr. Musa Dankwa so that he takes us through the special polls that he has conducted on these constituencies. We'll finish the show up with it. But for now, we'll leave it here. We've had Dr. Kevin Kasas Zamora, and he is actually with the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, as they call it, International Ideas. He's a Secretary General for the group, and Ghana is actually, on that we are part of it. So we're hosting this program tomorrow. I'm sure Natlaye we'll see the organizers put together a crawler, and you have all the details. He's already told us it's starting around 8:30 a.m. Please, not Ghana time, a.m. GMT. So we'll add all the details, the venue and everything, and then you can join either online or go to the venue itself and join it. You have some last words before I let you go?
Well, only to say that I'm immensely happy to be in Ghana for the first time.
Oh, it's your first time?
It is my first time, and tell you the truth, I live in Stockholm. And Stockholm is a wonderful place, don't get me wrong, but it gets very cold. So, and I come from the tropics, I'm a tropical creature through and through. So I'm very happy to be back in the tropics. And on a more serious vein, I'm enormously happy to be collaborating, to have International IDEA collaborate with the Ghanaian authorities to host this discussion about a truly important issue for democracy globally. I mean, this has been a wonderful collaboration. Let me mention specifically the wonderful collaboration that we've had with Ambassador Sylvia Ano, the Ghanaian ambassador to Denmark and Sweden. She's a wonderful collaborator, a wonderful friend of international idea, and a source of pride for Ghana as a wonderful representative of your country. This has been a great collaboration, and also with the other authorities of the Ghanaian government. This is something that we would like to continue. I think the voice of Ghana it carries some weight when it comes to democracy in Africa and beyond. You have many reasons to be proud of what you have achieved, and this seminar is one small way to try to protect what you've built over the past 30 plus years.
So you see, all is not lost. You know, some of you just talk down on us too much. All isn't lost. So we still have the voice within the space of democracy. So let's all contribute. We definitely will be here as Metro TV, and we'll bring you the details of this seminar as well. I thank you so much for coming through, Doc. And we hope to see you again. How long are you staying for?
I'm staying in Ghana until Sunday, but I will be back. I shall return.
Oh, Sunday is saying. It is saying. It is saying.
Sorry?
Oh,
this
they
Sunday.
haven't taught you it is saying.
Yes, they told me, yeah, exactly.
So
that's
it is
the
saying.
way. And what I'm supposed to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, it's wonderful to be here. That's what I meant.
We'll see you again. Thank you so much for coming through. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get back to Mr. Musa Damka, who will take us through the special polls he has conducted so that the MPs who are in trouble will also see how they will manage their situation. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. So we're still on Good Afternoon Ghana. We just finished with a doctor from the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance in the person of Dr. Kevin Casas Zamora. We're still with Mr. Musa Damka. So let's cross over to him so that he takes us through the rest of the slides as conducted on the members of parliament. You can go ahead, sir. Thank you for staying and waiting to hear what we had to say.
Thank you. So in summary, Sunyani is Amayao Chireme in trouble, big one. Now, let's look at the presidential race in the same constituency. Now, Alan on 14%, Mahama 73%, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia 11%, undecided 1%. If it is Kennedy, Alan 7%, Mahama 61%, Kennedy 31%, and 1% said someone else. So you can see that Bahama is taking a huge lead in the constituency. Now let's look at Central Region. The first one is Infantiman constituency. She won it last time by 51.9%. Currently, 20% of the respondents said they were MPP, 28 NDC, 46 floating voters. Another warning sign, Infantiman. Anytime you see higher floating voters, it means trouble. Now, in the performance approval, excellent, 0. Very good or good, 11%. Very poor or poor, 54%. Average, 33%. No opinion, 2%. Who do you intend to vote for? Infantiman, NDC, 71%. MPP, 21%. Others, 3%. And 5% said they were undecided. If you look at the presidential race in the constituency, Infantiman, what do you see? Alan, 11%. Mahama, 72%. Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, 11%. 5% undecided, others 1%. If it is Kennedy, Alan, 7%. Mahama, 66%. Kennedy, 21%. 5% undecided, and others 1%. So you can see that Mahama is taking or is leading in Infantiman at the moment. Then we have Ewutu Senya East. Very interesting race there. Last time she won by 52.6%. Currently, in the respondents, 50% were MPP, a very good one. 33% NDC, 11% floating voters, others 5%, and not disclosed 1%. Her performance, not bad at all. Excellent, 11%. Very good or good, 33%. Poor or very poor, 3%, and average, 52%. So she's quite doing quite well.
Right.
And who do you intend to vote for? Look, she's leading. Hawa Kumsin, 52%. NDC 39%, others 5%, undecided 4%. If this goes this way, it's likely she could retain her seat in the midst of these challenges. Then the presidential, you could see she's doing far better than her party in the constituency. Alan 11%, Mahama 72%, DMB 11%, 7% for Alan, 6% for Mahama in the constituency, and 21% for Kennedy. She is doing well, far above her party in the constituency.
Yeah.
Then we have Eswo Jaman. He won 61% last time. Currently in the sample, 24% were MPP. NDC 31%, not disclosed, 45%. Eswo Jaman. It was a bit different last time we went there. It's changing now. Performance rating, excellent 6%, very good or good 39%, very poor or poor 47%, average 4%, no opinion 4%. Parliamentary voting intention, almost dead heat. MPP 47% now, leading. They are, even though they haven't gone to primaries, but they have advantage in the voting intention. NDC has dropped to 44%. He was leading last time. He's dropped a few percent points, so he is behind by 3 points, not too far in the constituency.
What's your interpretation to that?
It means that the race will still be very close.
Okay.
Now, in the constituency, so Jaman, Mahama 49%, Alan 1%, Mahmoud Bawumia 38%. If it's Kennedy and Mahama square, 46 in Eswo Jaman, 7% says someone else, 1% undecided. So it's going to be very heat up in Eswo Jaman. Now, Greater Accra, Domi Kwabinya, Sarah Adwasafu.
Why are you smiling?
Last time she won 58.4%. Party affiliation, look at it critical. 53% of the respondents were MPP, 29 were NDC, 13 floating voters, others 1%, and not disclosed 4%. Her performance, excellent, 5%. Very good or good, 6%. Very poor or poor, 71%.
Oh, that's
she
almost
is in
100%.
real trouble. Average, 13%. 5%, no opinion. Who do you intend to vote for in the parliamentary elections? NDC, 49%. Domi Kwabinya. MPP, 40%. Undecided, 11%. There is trouble brewing in Domi Kwabinya. Look at it. For NDC, 24% of MPP people are voting for NDC candidates. And 63% of floating voters NDC. And that is where the problem is coming from.
Yeah.
MPP is divided. Almost a quarter of them in the constituency are voting for Akurugu in the parliamentary elections.
Right.
That will be troubling for MPP in Domi Kwabinya.
Yeah.
Now the presidential elections. Alan, 12%. Mahama, 51% in Domi Kwabinya. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, 26%. Undecided, 9%. If it is Kennedy, Alan, 5%. Mahama drops 44%. Kennedy, 28%. 11% undecided. This is Domi Kwabinya. Mahama is leading Domi Kwabinya right now. Ayawasu Central, Honorable Minister Henry Kotik, he won last time 52.9. In the current response, 38% were MPP respondents, 28 NDC, 14 MPP, 20 did not disclose their party affiliation. Performance, excellent, 2%. Very good or good, 14%. 33% said very poor or poor, average 45%. Who do you intend to vote for? NDC 45%, MPP 41%. MPP is behind in Ayawasu Central. Trouble brewing there. And then in the presidential election, Mahama is leading everybody now. Mahama 53%, Alan 6%, DMB 29%. Alan 26%, Mahama 55%, Kennedy 23% in Ayawasu Central. Ayawasu North, Honorable Yusuf Jaja. In the respondents, 21% were MPP. NDC, 52%. 15% floating voters, 3% others, and 9% did not disclose. Performance of the MP, excellent, 7%. Very good or good, 60%. Poor or poor, 13%. Average, 16%. No opinion, 4%. Who do you intend to vote for? NDC, 81%.
Okay.
MPP, 12%. That is a no race for that constituency. Now, look at the presidential race in Ayawasu North. Mahama, 83%, Allen, 4%, Bawumia, 6%. Kennedy, against Kennedy, Allen, 7%, Mahama, 80%, Kennedy, 3%. There's no contest there in the presidential race. Kole Klotek, Honorable Senator Ajiman Rawlings, she's on the rope at the moment. Last time she won 61%. In the response we have now, 42% were MPP, 43 were NDC, 15 were floating voters. Look at it. Excellent, 28%. Very good, 22%. Very poor, 0. Average, 49. She shouldn't be where she is now. But in the race, NDC, 48% in the parliamentary elections.
Wow.
MPP, 51%. Something is happening in Kole Klote. She must watch out. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Kole Klote presidential. Against Bawumia, Mahama Allen. Allen 16%. Mahama 42%. Bawumia 42%. NDC is in trouble in the presidential race in Kole Klote. When it comes to the race between Allen, Mahama, and Kennedy, look, Allen Chermatin 47% in Kole Klote. Wow. Is leading in Kole Klote. Mahama 41%. Kennedy Ohina Japan 12%. Kole Klote on fire at the moment. Botiano, English. Amanfrom, Sylvester Matthew Tetek. Last time he won by 53.3%. In the respondents currently, 61% were MPP. Very crucial. Look at this number. 21 were NDC. 14% were floating voters, and 4% did not disclose. His performance approval, excellent, 7%. Very good, 5%. Very poor or poor, 73%. Wow. Average, 14%. No opinion, 1%. Who do you intend to vote for? Look, NDC, 58%. MPP, 40%. MPP candidate or Sylvester is on the rope in Botiano, English, Amanfrom. Where is it? Why is it roughly? Look, almost 40% of MPP people are voting for NDC candidates. Okay. His problem is from within. Yeah. 39% of MPP voters in Botiano, English, Amanfrom, intend to vote for NDC's candidates. That is where his problem is coming from. In the presidential, Allen, 31%. Mahama, 53%. Kennedy, 15%. This should be Bawumia. And then when you come to against Kennedy, Allen, 27%. John Dramani Mahama, 47%. And Kennedy, 26% in Botiano, English, Amanfrom. Now, Ablukumanov. Sheila Battels. She won comfortably last time. This time around, MPP 27%. NDC just 14% in the sample. Floating voters 35%. 19% did not disclose their party affiliation. 3% said they were other party supporters. Approval, excellent, 1%. Very good or good, 4%. Very poor or poor, 53%. 25 average, no opinion, 17%. And parliamentary voting intention, NDC, 37%. MPP, 13%. And Ablukumanov. Others, 7%. Whopping 43% said they were undecided. Undisclosed. Her fate lies in the hands of undecided voters. Yeah. And in the presidential, look at it there. Allen, 18%. Mahama, 47%. DMB, 16%. 18% undecided. Against Kennedy, Japan, 14% for Allen, 48% for Mahama, 17% for Kennedy, and again, 19% undecided. They are not happy in that constituency. Amasaman, very competitive race there. Last time he won by a whisker, 51.1%. Currently, party affiliation, 56% for MPP respondent. 21 were NDC. 23 floating voters. His performance assessment, excellent, 9%. Very good, 11%. Poor or very poor, 34%. Average, 41%. No opinion, 5%. Who do you intend to vote for? Dead heat. 47% NDC. 49% MPP. Undecided, 4%. This race will go down to the wire again if he doesn't take care. Now, look at the problem here. 9% of NDC guys are voting for, MPP are voting for NDC guys. And he is winning, the NDC guy is winning 93% of floating voters. If that continues, that may not go well for the incumbent there. At the moment, it's competitive, but it's very tight.
I see. So we have just about 6 more, right? But
yeah, we can finish.
Our time is up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. You go through and let's see if we can just use that.
Now, we can quickly look at Western region.
Yeah.
Miracle Duka, he's made a recovery. Now, 50% said they will vote for him. 30% NDC, so he's made some recovery there.
Right.
He has a lot of work to do anyway. In the constituency, look, it's all over the place. No one has an advantage in the presidential race in Takon's for him. It is scattered.
That's an interesting thing. Okay.
Western North, we have Bibiani Nkyayesu Bekwai. He won last time 61%. At the moment, NDC is leading 43% to 35%. He looks to be in some kind of trouble. He needs to figure out what to do. Again, look at the race in the presidential. It's scattered all over the place. They are confused in those constituencies. Now, Ashanti region, interesting stuff coming from Ashanti region. For Ano North, he won 50.7 last time by a whisker. Right now, he's behind. NDC, 53%. MPP, 39% in Ano North.
Okay, so we'll wrap on this. Okay, so wrap up on this and then we're done.
Let's look at
Eugene, yeah.
Eugene, okay. Eugene, he won almost 72.5%. Now, 28% said they will vote for NDC. 34, Eugene. 34, undecided.
Wow.
In Subin. Bantama. He won 88.8. Currently, Bantama, 21% said they will vote for NDC. 8% will vote for MPP MP. And 66 undecided. Something is happening in Bantama. The Honorable MP must be on the lookout. Olotobri, okay.
Okay.
Now, look at this one.
That's the last one, right?
Last one, yes. Olotobri, presidential race. Alan Chirematin, 34%. Mahama, 16%. DMB, 34%. And if it is Kennedy,
25.
25, 18, and Kennedy,
okay, 25 for Alan.
So there is something is happening across the country. Every MP must look out, must be on the lookout. Things are happening there, and they must be on the lookout.
Okay, so I think that the MPs, if they're interested in this, must contact you or me, either of us. Contact either of us will have you, the details so that you can look at it and see where it will help you. That's Mr. Musa Damkwa, who has always been serving us with periodic polls that he's been conducting on the grounds in the members of parliament areas and also at the national level as well. And we've always been making time, pleading with him to serve us with the details that his findings. My name is Ania Fafo, and thank you for watching. Remember that we have this International Idea Seminar tomorrow, as we earlier on had an interview with Dr. Kevin, and we'll bring you the details also on Metro TV. Thank you for watching. Good afternoon to you.